Hello, welcome back. This is Mike Smith with another tutorial in Maya. We're going to continue making our table by looking at a detailed table leg. So, like before, make sure your project folder is set and make sure you save your scene before we even start in the project folder. Now, if you've come back to a different computer or if someone else has used the computer since you used it last, you'll need to reset your original project folder. Simply go to File, Set Project, click once on your project folder, and then click on Set, just to remind Maya where it is. Mine's already set, so I'm going to click on Cancel. And now File, Save Scene As, and I'm going to call this Table Leg. Okay, so make sure your channel box is open, the icon in the very top right, and then we want the outliner as well, window outliner. So to model the table leg, we'll start with a cylinder. In this case, a much taller, slimmer cylinder. Press 5 to shade that. And we're going to title it Inner Outliner Table Leg, or anything you feel appropriate. Press Enter once it's titled. And now, like before, we can model in the centre of the grid, so select it, and 0, translate X, Y and Z in your channel box. And in this case, what we can do is actually move it up, so it's sitting on top of the grid. So your translate Y is no longer 0, but X and Z are 0. So it's still in the centre of the grid, just slightly above it. Okay, so if you remember from before, the default number of divisions on a cylinder is 20, which is too many. We're going to lower that down to about 8. So, in your channel box, click on Inputs, Polycylinder 1, and then change your divisions from 20 down to 8. And now we can start looking at putting some kind of detail in here. Now I want quite a slim table leg with a round part on the bottom, and I'll put some detail in the middle afterwards. To do that, if we zoom into the bottom here, I'm going to first of all go to Edit Mesh, Insert Edge Loop Tool, and I'm going to put an edge or a division a little bit further up from the bottom. And while it's still selected, so before I click on anything else, I'm going to use the scale tool, and I'm going to scale from the centre in. And as I do that, you can see it scales all the way around. If you scale from one of the sides, it might look okay, but you'll see it only scales in one direction. So make sure with the scale tool, if you want it symmetrical, you scale from the centre. And we're now going to match the bottom to that by right-clicking and going to Edge and double-clicking on just one of these edges. And when you double-click, it selects everything for you. If I press 4 for wireframe, you'll see that it selected that edge all the way around. Press 5 to go back to shaded. And I'm now going to scale that in as well to match roughly this one above it. And now I can use the edge loop tool again, and I'm going to put in 2 divisions in here. Once I've done that, I'll go back to my select tool. I'm going to deselect everything by clicking outside of my object, go back to edge mode, double click on one of the edges on one of the divisions, hold shift and double click on one of the other ones on the other division, just to select both of those all the way around. Now we can go back to our scale tool and scale both of those out to make them larger. And this is where you might need to scale the height as well to give the table leg a bit more definition. Okay, so I'm happy with that there, maybe go down a bit. And if you want to scale the entire thing down, what we could do is right click and go to vertex. And in this case I'm going to select the whole thing, but make sure you're looking at either the front or the side of the object. Don't drag over the whole thing like that because you'll select some vertices at the very top. So just make sure there's nothing behind it and drag over it there, and now we can basically scale the whole thing down. Okay, so once we're happy with that, we can start putting some more detail in here. And we can check to see what it looks like when it's smoothed as well. Right click, go back to object mode, go to your select tool and select the object and then press 3. And you'll find it smooths too much, you lose some of this detail like what happened with the tabletop. So press 1 to unsmooth that, and now we can use our edge loop tool again, edit mesh, insert edge loop tool, and I'm going to put a division just above here, so click and hold on one of these vertical edges and put one just above there. Now when I smooth this, right click, go back to object mode, select tool, select your object and then 3 to smooth. You get a nicer round part. Okay, so that's starting to look better. Press 1 to unsmooth it. Now I'm going to put some more detail working my way up here. I'm going to start by putting another couple of divisions at the top here. One towards the top and one just below it. The one below it, I'm going to scale in like we did before. Something like that. And now if we look at this top part, I want something to kind of go in, so it's got like a dent going all the way around. I can do that again with the edge loop tool, but this time I'll use 3. So click and drag on one of these vertical edges, and I want 3 fairly close together. And with the one in the middle selected, if you've already deselected it like we did before, just right click and go to edge mode, select tool and double click on one of these edges, and then we can scale that in to give it a bit of detail. Press 3 to see how it looks when it's smoothed. Make sure you go back to object mode and you've selected it, and you might find like before it smooths too much, so we need to use our edge loop tool again to constrain some of this detail we've put in. So edit mesh, insert edge loop tool, and we can start putting some divisions in. In this case I'm going to put one just above where I've put this dent and one just below. Leave a small gap, and then where this table leg goes in I'll do the same thing again. I'm going to put one just above it and one just below it. Right click and go to object mode, select tool, select your object and press 3. Now you've got a bit more detail. Now you'll find with the edge loop tool, the closer the edge loop tool is to another edge, the sharper that part is, and the further away it is, the more rounded it is. For example, if we look at this bottom part, it does go in quite sharp there. If I press 1 to unsmooth that, go to edge mode and select this lower division, double click on it, and if I move that down further away, if I now smooth that, you'll see that particular part there is less harsh, it's less sharp. So you can always play around with the distance of your edge loop tool from the next division above or below it. Okay, I'm going to put one last division on the very top, press 1 to unsmooth that, go back to your edge loop tool and click and drag and put 1 at the top there. And then go back to object mode and see how that looks. Select the tool, select it, and press 3. And we should have quite a nice looking table leg. You can play around with the divisions you want to put on there. You can have any kind of pattern. Once you're happy, just save that. File, save scene. And then in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to import that onto the tabletop, and we can duplicate it all the way around. Okay, learn something new, keep practicing, and I'll speak to you soon.